So we haven't actually generated any sound banks yet, so I think it's time that we did that. If we take a look at the Soundbank Manager, you'll see that there is a default work unit with an unchecked box next to it and an X. So let's hit on that plus sign and we can see what's inside there. And it contains all of those sound banks that we created. So if we check one of these or another, we can select individually which sound banks we'll be generating at this time. And just take a note that that top level default work unit is going to be filled out with black. And I want you to know that because once you have several different work units in your sound banks, when you go in here, you're going to see those all listed. And that black means that there's a sound bank inside that work unit that you're not seeing that is not selected. And that could be the root of some of your problems. So that's a really easy way to see whether or not everything is selected. So we want to select everything. We want to generate everything that we've put in here. So we can select our platform. Now, right now, I only have Windows installed, and this is not the system that I'm working on. This is the system that I'm generating a sound bank for. Those two things are distinct. This is what I selected when I installed Wise initially. And then also we have languages, and right now we only have English set up, so just select English, and now generate becomes available. If we uncheck this, it will be grayed out. So if you're seeing this grayed out, then maybe you have forgot to tell Wise what it is that you wanted to generate. And now right away, we can hit generate. And just like that, it's gone through the entire system that we've created, everything that we've placed in those sound banks, and it has generated a file that your game engine will be able to use to connect with this whole system and trigger these events. Right now down here, you can see in the log that we have 30 media files out of the 200 permitted in our evaluation mode, and it will always let us know that. If you're not in evaluation mode and you have a license, then this will disappear, and you'll have a lot of other messages down here, such as if you have files duplicated in more than one sound bank, Wise will warn you about that. If there's something in a sound bank that has a missing file, so for example, if our sound bank contained Big Door and we had accidentally deleted the Big Door blend container, that would give us an error. And we would see all of that in this sound bank generation window. Now you have your sound banks generated and ready for game, but there's actually a lot more that we can do in terms of the subtleties of how we're generating those sound banks. So next I want to think about what would happen if we had multiple different platforms. So let's head over to Share Sets, and here you can see a number of different things that you can share between objects in your Wise structure. For example, under attenuations, you can see the honks attenuation that we created in an earlier module. So here we also have conversion settings. So you can take a look at the default conversion settings, just double click on that, and you'll see the conversion settings editor pop up. And here you have a breakdown of information of all of the audio sources that are using the default conversion setting right now, which is in fact all of the audio sources that we have in the game, and information such as what language they have, if they are dialogue files, how many channels that file has, the original sample rate and what the sample rate would be if we convert it to a different sample rate, and a lot of other information about those files. So here we can actually create custom conversion settings that we can apply to specific audio hierarchies in our project. And you can do that either by creating a new work unit in the top level of conversion settings or working within the default work unit. Create a new conversion setting, and let's call this mobile. So perhaps we have our default conversion settings for the game in its normal state, and then we have a mobile conversion setting, and we're going to have this downsample as much as possible any less important sounds in the game, just so that we're not taking up as much space, because cell phone games need to be much smaller. We don't want to be using the same quality of audio as we're going to be using in a console. Not only that, but mobile games are also generally played without headphones or in noisy environments, and so it's just a little less important to have a high definition, high dynamic audio. So we can just go ahead and change our sample rate to 44.1, and you could even go lower than this, 36, 32, it depends on the sound. So I could set this up as 44.1, for example, and then I could create another one called Mobile SFX and set this at 32. And then I'm going to rename that first one Mobile MX. So now I have one conversion setting for music and one for sound effects, but if we apply this to our audio containers, that's going to change everything. It's not just going to change the conversion rate for mobile. So actually, I can't show you this properly without having another platform installed, because right now I only have Windows, and if you had multiple platforms, you would see that here. So let's actually quickly install another platform so I can show you this firsthand. In order to do that, just head over to Project and select Platform Manager. So here we have Windows, the existing platform we have installed, and now you can just select Add and the new platform that you want to install. Let's use Android. We'll hit OK, and then OK again. You'll see that pending actions are Add and then Copy Settings from Windows. So for now, it'll just grab default settings from the Windows. It'll reload the project, and now we have Android installed. So when you go back into your conversion settings, let's look at Mobile MX. And you'll see that we have Android and Windows. So actually now we don't need this to be Mobile MX specific. This can just be our music conversion. And we can set Android up as having a 44:1 sample rate and Windows as having as input. And we'll leave Windows as input again for channels, but maybe we've decided the music is really unimportant in this particular game and we're just going to make it a mono file so that it's taking up the least amount of space. So now we have a music setting. We don't need this one. And in that way, you can create as many custom conversion settings as you want that are specific to your needs in the game. And then within that, you can customize separate settings for each platform that you are planning to generate for. The final step now is to set up this music conversion setting that we just created in the music audio. So we just want to go back over to our audio tab to music, and now go over to the source settings tab. Here you'll see conversion settings, and by default, the default conversion settings. So now we can go in and select the new conversion settings that we just created, or you can also click and drag those directly from the Share Sets tab. Now when you generate your Soundbanks, this music hierarchy will be looking at this custom conversion setting as opposed to the default. In that way, you can really go in and customize every single container to what you want, setting up different kinds of conversion settings according to the specific needs of that container, that type of sound effect, and your game.